Vice President Harris is cutting her campaign trip short today. She'll take part in briefings with FEMA following the devastation left by Helene. Harris was briefed over the weekend on the federal storm response and amid campaign stops in the western part of the country. Former President Trump is also touring storm damage in Georgia today. Like Harris, he spent much of the weekend campaigning, but is now hearing some backlash from fellow Republicans for repeated personal attacks against Harris. CBS News political director Fin Gómez is here in Studio 57 following both the Trump and Harris campaigns for us. Fin, always good to see you in New York City. So happy that you're here ahead of the debate. Yeah. Let's talk about Harris's trip to her home state over the weekend and the fundraising haul.
So the fundraising haul, Lindsay, is pretty enormous. Per our reporting, it's $55 million that she took away from this from her visit to California ahead of this debate. But it is, since she's moved to the top of the ticket, we've seen some pretty large amounts of money that she's secured via in fundraising. It's been especially in comparison to when Joe Biden was leading the charge.
A month out, why is that fundraising haul so crucial?
It's so important because it goes to what? It goes to mobilizing your base supporters. It goes to going to battleground states, battleground counties, battleground precincts, and having, and trying to appeal to those undecideds that are still there. I mean, we are so close to the election, Lindsay, that every little cent, every little advantage does help. But also Donald Trump is relying a lot of his get out the vote efforts to his super PACs. So he's still making up that difference, but Harris clearly has an advantage, and she's putting it to use when it comes to fundraising.
Let's talk about some of the criticism that Trump is getting about personal attacks against Harris. He suggested on Saturday the vice president has special needs. Let's go ahead and play some of what he said.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. She was born that way. But we're bringing them in at levels that nobody's ever seen, and we're doing it by stupid people like Kamala. She's a stupid person. Stupid person. I don't care.
Republican allies aren't happy with this. I can't imagine that it goes over well with female voters and with certain voting blocs that Trump is trying to court that he needs. Our own Caitlin Huey-Burns last month pressed him on this. Why do you question her intelligence? What evidence do you have? And he said, I have to do this.
There's some sources close to the campaign who have told us and told CBS News that if he moves the rhetoric, the focus of the campaign to these personal attacks, he could lose those moderate Republican voters in places like Pennsylvania, in places like Arizona, in places like Georgia that he needs. It's not just about the suburban voters, let's say, that he's trying to appeal to. He is doubling down. His campaign has doubled down on trying to appeal to young male voters and male voters directly. There's a historic gender gap that we're seeing in this cycle, Lindsay, and this probably does not help him as he tries to appeal to those undecided voters again.
I imagine tomorrow is a huge audience, obviously, for both Vance and Walz. Yes. I imagine that Vance is mostly prepping for the audience of one. Is the same true for Walz?
Well, they're both traditionally, what we've been told is they're both prepping traditionally. We do expect that both nominees are going to be, the top of the ticket nominees, the presidential nominees, will be watching their running mates respectively. Look, there's a lot of high stakes on this, Lindsay. This is my 5th presidential cycle that I've covered. I haven't seen anything like this since maybe the Sarah Palin, Joe Biden VP debate in 2008. There's a lot of interest in this one.
Wow. And usually the VPs are considered just do no harm, but you think this one is very high stakes. Especially
because this could be the last last debate before the election. It's important, it's crucial. And of course, I think that like everything else in this cycle, everything's elevated, every single word and moment counts for these two campaigns.
Fin Gómez, thank you so much.